you to the staff some fried chicken in there. For those that don't know,
Thanks for doing all that recently. You got it.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, I'm like pushing this on everyone. So, okay, here we go, finally. Where are you from?
Here, I grew up in New York City. That's probably helped me a bit because my first venue, Wetlands, I took over in 1996. It was your guys. I was 23. I'm 50 now, so I've been doing this every day pretty much for 27 years, and I still love it. The show part, the daytime stuff was hard, but it definitely helped that I was from New York when I did this first venue that was in Lower Manhattan in Tribeca. Just having that familiarity with the streets, with the neighborhood, with the city, with the people, having my own people here, that helped me. So that's something I would pass on, like for anyone looking to start. It's good to start in a place where you're familiar.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's funny. It's the first good question. People don't usually ask that. You know, where are you from? And that's had positive impact on me that I was born in New York City.
Yeah.
Versus born maybe somewhere else.
Wisconsin.
Right. Wisconsin's awesome, and Madison. I've spent time, and there's live music there.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's probably not quite as easy.
No.
Right. It's having a venue in Madison, being from there. You just don't have that flow.
For sure.
Of touring bands, of shows, and people. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you set out to be in the music industry, or did it happen organically, beginning with your Grateful Dead film in college and grow from there?
Good. Yeah, you nailed it. Through high school, not really. I got into music a little bit senior year, towards the end, and it was more my friends leading it and going with them to things like Jane's Addiction, My Bloody Valentine, Lollapalooza. I went to my senior year of high school. I was not a Dead guy. Got to college. I went to school in Chicago at Northwestern. Started like throwing frisbee, playing hacky sack, being a little neo-hippie kind of thing, hanging out, playing Grateful Dead or hearing that music. And then I went to a Grateful Dead show my sophomore year of college in March of 1993. And it changed my life. Basically, I had an experience where I was at Rosemont Horizon, which is an arena in Chicago. And I was at the show, and the Grateful Dead were playing. Second time I had seen them, and they had a spoken word artist, Ken Nordine, who started talking, "What you want?" And like the waves of audio were flowing through the arena. And I was in a headspace up here. And I left I was just like, wow, like what is going on? And somehow, and I don't know how I found my friends later because I didn't have a cell phone then. I was in the parking lot. The next thing I knew, I was at a Dead show. It's snowing outside Chicago. And I saw all these kids that looked like me, 20. Upper middle class, upper middle class kids, suburban kid. I'm a city kid, but they were like not going back to college, not going home. They were like living in a school bus on the road, living like the 60s life, drum circles. You've seen that. All like, and we don't really see this much anymore. There's not much around today like this moment. And all these hippie kids with a drum circle outside a school bus. And I had never seen anything like that. I was actually a film kid. I was into video. I grew up in the 90s, early 90s, when like video cameras, these things now are video cameras. We've all got one. But in that day, they were new and they were big, like this big. JVC, you had a VHS tape. It was big. But I started playing around that. I had a public access TV show. I was always doing stuff, but it was about like my high school sports teams. And I was a film student at Northwestern. I went to study that. I went to study video, radio, TV, film. And I went to this show, and I was like, wow. I've never seen anything like this Grateful Dead thing. I went back to college that night. I don't know how I got there, or found my friends, because you don't have these phones. You had to coordinate meeting with people. You had to say, we'll meet at Will Call at the front, and there'd be a board, and you'd leave a note. You did not have this like I'm outside now. I don't know how we did it. But I got to college. I went to the library the next morning. We talk in our business about being at doors you know, where people on a GA show want to be first because they run in to get to the rail, which is right at the edge of the stage, you see? Yeah, I was, the only time in my life I was at doors of the library, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., because I wanted to be first to research, like, what has been done on this crazy Grateful Dead thing I just saw. Forget about the band, like the scene, the Deadheads, people chasing the 60s and what it meant. Because if you were up in the 90s, not much like that, except for going on tour with the Grateful Dead. And so I started researching, and I found like one documentary film had been done by a sociology professor, very academic. And I was like, wow, I'm way into video. I'm going to find a kid with a I didn't have my own video camera. I like borrowed them. And I found Phil Brule, another film student at Northwestern. And he owned a video camera. And I was like, yo, you want it? We're going to go on Dead Tour in a couple months. We're going to get a van. You bring your camera. I'm going to get my parents. We're going to rent a van. And we're going to go on tour with these people like who were doing the drum circles and the scene and the cops and all the different elements that were there, the vendors, all the crazy stuff was going on. And he was like, let's do it. And it's in I think the book that we rented an all white. We rented a van. I remember when we returned it. It was like unlimited mileage, but they didn't think we'd really be driving around America, but we did. And the guy was like, what? We lived in this van? No windows? I also learned if you're going on Dead Tour in the parking lot, don't show up in an all-white van with no windows, because they're going to think you're the cops. We first pulled in Detroit for our first thing, documentary. We were going to make a documentary. Little Phil was like 5'3", redheaded guy, and me, and we pulled in to the parking lot of Auburn Hills in Detroit, this arena, and everyone was like, yo, DEA, DEA, DEA. So I'm like, Phil, pull out, go. So we drove down a couple blocks, parked, and we walked back in. We never got the band in our film, but we got like Timothy Leary, Ken Kesey, Wavy Gravy, Rock Scully, all these important people from the 60s and the beginning of the Grateful Dead talking about, and then on tour. We went to you can actually see it's on YouTube. It's called In Miles to Go. If you go Miles to Go, Peter Shapiro, it'll show up. And so I made my own first film, video enabled. Before these video cameras in the 90s, you have to shoot film. That would have been hard. And my university, this is relevant if you guys are students, I don't know. I got school credit.
Nice.
I mean, that was a big thing, was utilizing the college years, the early years, when you're in your 20s to do stuff. And because that's an opportunity to try doing things with a safety net a little bit, versus when you're out of college or you don't have versus be like, I'm quit, and I'll tell one more story because it's good. This is all about how to do this, right? And learn. So I own Brooklyn Bowl. This happened. We had two kids, people in their 20s, worked at Brooklyn Bowl. They both were like, I'm in a band. A lot of people there are in bands, in our bar, servers, barbacks work there. And they're like, my band got a tour, so I quit. Or they both my band got a tour. One, they went and met with HR, and they both had 5-minute meetings in the office, or 3 minutes, hey, I love working here. My band got a tour. We're going on the road for 6 weeks. You've been on tour. I quit. The other person goes in, has the meeting, say, my band got a tour. I'm going to be on the road for 6 weeks. I love it here. I might want to come back one day.
Right.
By the way, they both come back after the tour.
Yeah.
Everyone comes back. And they both I'm back. But one was just outie. And the only difference, the other was I might want to come back. And the HR was like, when you come back, call me.
Yeah.
Think about that. They both went in there for the same 3 minutes. The only difference is how they said it.
Yeah.
One comes back. The other was like, I'm out. And I think back, I am sure of it. One got advice from a parent or someone like me, be like, yo, make sure you protect your ability to come back. The other person was just psyched about the tour. I don't need any advice. I'm out. I'm going on tour.
Long game.
Longest. Think about that. Those people went in, nothing was different other than how they said the words they used in that 3-minute meeting. But that's the same. While you don't give it up, you want to try being a musician. If you can have a side hustle or a main hustle, and side hustle being the musician and still have a job, whatever that is, or be in school or I recommend highly you do it that way versus I don't need school. I'm done. I've had kids come like, I'm not going to go to college. I'm a musician. I'm a senior in high school. I'm a hot shot. I'm just going to play gig. I'm like, you know, if you can be in school and do this, if you can have any kind of job and record, tour, do anything on weekends, you know, keep that, try to do that on the multiple tracks if you can.
So true. Can you try and sum up Wetlands and what made it so special that people still talk about it over 20 years later, which for context you've said wasn't necessarily the best place to see a show, it was the best place to experience a show?
It's great. Wetlands was unique. It's almost like this room, which is a great room. You know, that maybe if we were full and sold out and we were selling tickets on both levels, not everyone upstairs would be able to see the show. But it's got a good vibe. You can move around. And Wetlands, when it was full, you know, some of the people would be behind like these columns back there, and they couldn't have a full view. But they'd be hanging out in that back corner at that bar. They could hear a bunch of music and have a great hang. So they would meet people. So when we were sold out, 30% of the people like could not see the show. But that would force them to the back in that bar or in the basement, which was the equivalent of upstairs. And so I have a lot of people. I just met a kid the other day who's like, I exist because of Wetlands. Yeah. My parents met at a show. And I'm always like, yo, that's because Wetlands forced people to kind of go to other areas and they met people. If you go to what's like a perfect sightline venue, which is still great, but like Music Hall Williamsburg's around here or Bowery Ballroom, like I great rooms, but I don't know if you meet your wife there or your husband there because you just stand there and watch the show. Yeah. You don't move around. So Wetlands forced you to move around. It also forced us to, like, as staff, to treat people better, to create a vibe at the show that would offset the lack of perfect sight lines and the lack of full air conditioning and the lack of any video wall integration and the lack of any food. Like, we were short on some of that. So we worked harder to create a great vibe. And that's why Brooklyn Bowl, if you look at, and it was a village, like, it was amazing because only 7,500, 8,000 square feet, but it had all these areas. So I'm real big in, like, venues having different areas to kind of hang, like this kind of place has. And Brooklyn Bowl, if anyone's been there, has kind of different areas. It's got great sight lines, but it's kind of got this other stuff going on. It integrates video in a big way. You know, back to my background, I'm a film guy. And so the venues, whether it's Brooklyn Bowl or the Capitol Theater, I love integrating visual into it. I'm less a bowling guy. Bowling's just about fun. And New Orleans, we wanted to create a venue that felt like late night in New Orleans, and there's a place in New Orleans. We weren't first to do this integration. We just really more did it in a way that was, we just believed that we cannot do solo acoustic music at Brooklyn Bowl. Will not work. But basically we found that anything, once you're duo, really trio, anything rock, anything multi-artist, can't do comedy, can't do solo, everything else works, and that the noise from a great PA offsets the noise. And then you have these screens at the end, and they're like 130 feet, 150 feet from your eyes, and they're 100 feet wide because there are multiple of them at the end of the lanes. And that visual layout, that physics, that layout makes it better. When you go to Irving Plaza or Webster Hall, if you guys know from shows, like a little screen here, or if we were watching a show here and you had a little monitor there, it's cool, but it's not like a bank of 100 feet wide by 130 and huge screens. So part of the Brooklyn Bowl thing was my film background, video, and so when we have a band playing, you can see them playing live video IMAX on these screens. We go into close-ups of the guitar, yeah. So it's meant to be, it is a venue that lends itself really well to video integration, so that was part of the magic. Then we added the village components in a restaurant area and different spots. We made sure we had the beautiful air conditioning sightlines, and we added food, the Blue Ribbon food. And so it kind of was a creation of a place from a person who owned just a regular rock club. Yeah. You know, I learned a lot from owning that, just like you guys. When you do your first project, you'll learn. And when you do your second one, you'll adjust, I think, in certain ways based on what you learned from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So Brooklyn Bowl is definitely a creation of a place by someone who owned a rock club that was basic and even beyond. And by the way, here's one. When Wetlands was just a stage and a bar, when we opened and had a show that didn't sell a lot of tickets, it was hard. You just like, it's hard to catch up on a light night. People come in, they leave. When they don't see action, it's hard to retain them. And all the pressure was on the band because everyone was just coming to see the show. So at Brooklyn Bowl, it's what's called a soft ticket. That's a hard ticket. A hard ticket's when everyone there is just to see the show. Soft ticket, that's why music festivals are called soft tickets, as Emily knows. Because some people may be like, I'm just going to Lollapalooza, or I'm just going Gathering of the Vine. I don't really, And the band's one of 60, right? You're not alone selling a ticket alone. That's a hard ticket. Brooklyn Bowl became and unique, a concert, a club. Most clubs are hard tickets. People don't walk up to pay $20 unless they know what's going on. That's a hard ticket. Brooklyn Bowl, because we had these other stuff going on, some people would just show up just to go and be like, I want to go to Brooklyn Bowl. And because we had the revenue from bowling and food and other things, we could lower the ticket price. And once the ticket price came down to like $15 on a week, people will drop 15. Not what. So we would on a Saturday still do. We have some people that are hard buying just for the band, and then we have hundreds of people coming just to hang. And we can bring them. But that same band playing Brooklyn Bowl, we can pay them the same amount on a $15 ticket at Brooklyn Bowl because we have the other revenues. When they play Music Hall Williamsburg right here, it has to be like $25 or $30 because there's no other revenue streams. There's no bowling. There's no food. It's just concert and drink. And it's $25. At $25, there's no walk-up. Yeah. It's all a hard ticket. So that really, if you follow along, is the success, what led to Brooklyn Bowl, bands wanting to play that. You're going to make the same money. It's either $25 or $15. You're getting $5,000 guarantee either way, or $4,000, whatever it is. All the managers will be, and over here, it's 400 people in advance and then 400 walk-ups. Over at Music Hall at $25, even let's say you can even get the 400 pay there. There's not a lot of walk-up just coming, no soft. So you're either playing 800, making the same money, or 400, making the same. Which one do you want to play? You got that. And then you're playing half the audience is just a walk-up new. Mm-hmm. So you guys are learning. You want to play in front of new people. You want to open. You want at $25, very few people are new. Mm-hmm. Most people have seen you before. Most people are aware of you, and you want to play in front of new people. So that wasn't all thought out. I didn't sit there when we planned Brooklyn Bowl, be like, we're gonna figure out. It just kind of happened, and that is really what led to Brooklyn Bowl becoming kind of a better widget for a rock club. And we didn't have many dead nights because the bowling would supply a stream of humans that were there every week, all the time, a bunch. Versus the hard ticket, it's on you guys, And if you're light, you'd open at 6, 7, and there's not a lot of people there. It's very hard to recover. At the other place, Brooklyn Bowl, there's people hanging, there's bowling, 7:30, there's people when people are coming or they're telling their friends, yo, it's a scene, then it feeds itself. And more people come upon more people.
You mentioned a guarantee. I'm just going to move this so it doesn't tip. What's a guarantee for those that don't know? You said, you might get a $4,000 guarantee or $5,000 from.
It's just that you guys will bands starting out usually will be like a door deal. Like, you get a percentage of the door, no risk to the venue. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you guys going out early, just tell the venue, most will require it. I'll do a door deal. They'll count at the door if there are 4 bands. That's why they ask who you're here for, and they mark it. You'll pay on that. You'll get paid on that. And then when you get bigger and you start drawing a bunch of people, you can get to a point where you could say to the venue, I need $1,000 guaranteed, $2,000. That's when you later on, when you get an agent, and the agent will go on your behalf, like 3, and it goes to $5,000, 10, 20. Ed Sheeran now, or Pearl Jam, or the bigger arena bands. They're playing the Garden, they're getting $1 million, or 500 grand or 100 grand. And those are guarantees. And then there can be back end. If you sell out, you may get a bonus. But you'll start at a door deal. And your goal is to get to a guarantee. And then the venue, right, guarantees that money. And if no one shows up, the venue loses, right? But you still get your guarantee no matter what. So that's really your goal. You want to just get to guarantee world.
Yeah. Although I will say, as a former tour manager, so like if you have a $10,000 guarantee and the show tanks, Matt Hickey would say to me like, "Hey, can we throw the promoter like a grand in settlement?" And to me, that's such a reminder of like people don't remember what you did; it's how you made them feel.
We've been there. We still sometimes Lucas Sachs, who books Brooklyn Bowl, will say, "Hey, you know, he'll ask for a little something back." And by the way, people remember that. Yeah. Matt Hickey, someone I'm sure we've gone to. I know we have. And if you can give back 1,000 or something, you do it because you know you're going back to that promoter. You're going back to that venue. It's a long memory. It's a long game, I think you said. And so if you're that will help make the promoter feel better. Yes. Even if you still lost, it's like we're on the same team. Yeah. You guys are with and getting in. That's why at the end of the day, developing a live career, you want the venue to win. Because when the venue wins, then they'll have you back.
Yeah, exactly. So back to your story. Although you knew your time running Wetlands wouldn't be forever due to the lease situation you inherited, did you realize while you were doing that work you wanted to be a concert promoter for the rest of your life?
Ooh. No, I knew, I think you said before, I just got in it, and it's just been going, and there's ups and downs. That's why it was nice to hear your nice intro. Makes me feel better because I wake up. It's still hard. Yeah. This game, it's still hard. Medium, if you're small, medium, big, I think still hard. In a lot of ways, gets a bit easier when you're bigger. I'm still off on my own a lot. The biggest play, really, live music is really dominated more today than ever by a company called Live Nation you probably heard of that owns a lot of venues in pretty much every city, and then another company, AEG, but there's not a lot of people that do this at a bigger level, particularly really led by two, because it's hard. Yeah. When you win, you win 10, and when you lose, you can lose 50. Just to use an example, if you get, like when you have a show that doesn't work, you can lose a lot of money, especially because when you get bigger at Brooklyn Bowl, most nights it's a guarantee. Yeah. $5,000, $10,000, 15. If we come up short, and now there's lots of competition. We do better in the winter. Fall, winter, spring is Brooklyn Bowl season. Now there's so many outdoor venues, right? In the middle of June, who wants to really go inside? Not as many people. Yeah. When it's snowing in February and it's 21 degrees, there's about 7 things to do, and one of them is go to a show at Brooklyn Bowl. In the summer, when it's 81 degrees, there's about 4,000 things to do, right? You can go to the Catskills, you can go to the East River here, you can go to Forest Hill. There's more venues than ever. So, but the indoor venue thing always slows. It's cyclical. It's seasonal. But it's great. That's actually a good one for you guys. Even if you're playing a local bar, a small venue, like fall, winter, spring, better indoors. Summer, people are freer and have time. That's where it's interesting. Like in the winter, you want to play weekends. Yeah. In the summer, a Thursday is probably better than a weekend because on a Saturday, people are traveling or away. Your friends, those are just headline thoughts I would do. But it's still hard. You still got to be thinking all the time. Things are always moving, changing. It's not a factory. We just talked about this the other day. Or it's not like making widgets where it's like each time you're making the same widget and shipping it out. It's always moving around a bit. And so you got to stay with it as it moves. Artists are canceling this but it's fun. It's those moments, especially during the show. There's nothing like the magic you get when a live show happens. And factories were, don't give off that. Right? But it's always moving around.
So I'll never forget the first time I set foot in Brooklyn Bowl during your pre-opening parties that you hosted. As I mentioned, I used to be a tour manager, so I've been to venues all over the world. I remember telling you how perfect the attention to detail was in every way, from the couches to the bathroom to the food to the history of the building. What does Brooklyn Bowl mean to you coming up on its 15th anniversary and expanding nationwide?
Well, one thing I'll say just hearing that is like all the details matter also.
Yeah.
So we're really big on like the entry experience, the bathroom experience, and Wetlands had like rock and roll bathrooms when we built Brooklyn Bowl, especially the women's room. Women lead. If the women are happy, men follow. That's just true. We also, most of the venues are run by women. I think they're just more attention to detail. But like we made bathrooms, so we made the women's room with that lounge and like a window. Everything matters. I would tell you that. That's one reason why you're like always thinking, always adjusting, always changing, because like box office, security, bathroom, sound, lights are obvious, the food, the delivery of the food, the temperature, the volume, the light, all this adds up. And so Brooklyn Bowl became a great, honestly, widget. And now also the other thing is like in Las Vegas, we have a venue. In Vegas, if the business is a cake, the whole cake is what's called private events, special events, parties, where people will be like 500 people, 1,000 people, open bar. That's real money, more money than, but so wait, the business is a cake. The whole cake is private events. The concerts are sprinkles. And anyone who wants a good cake and has money wants sprinkles on the cake. So we need the concerts to make the venue cool for people to want to rent it to do the privates. But the money is on the privates. Yeah, because everyone's paying for open bar, food, for 1,000 people. 250 people don't even show up, but you still pay for it. Another 250 people now, especially maybe don't drink. Or just one. That's what's called margin. They're paying for the open bar. You don't even have to deliver on it. You only get that on privates. On a concert, the people that don't show up, you make nothing, obviously. The people that come in and don't drink, you're not making much. Because most of the money off the door goes to the band. So you want to make money selling drinks when people don't drink. So here in New York City, the local rock clubs, this thing, Music Hall Williamsburg, they're not doing nearly it's not probably own it, but in other places it's interesting. Each one's got its own little situation. And the reality is now, as a venue owner, the event side has become more and more important. And we created something with this Brooklyn Bowl where it's got the food. We can show screens. If you're having a birthday party, you can do cool visuals. If Questlove's coming to DJ his Soul Train, he's going to love Soul. We can put the Soul Train videos up, and he can spin to that. So those screens that we talked about, like, it's not, the bowling's nice, but it's about, we have a palette or a canvas. So if you're coming to me and saying, I want to do a party about my mom's 75th birthday, my anniversary, my 21st birthday, my kid's 5th birthday, we can utilize those screens and run video through them and run a slideshow through them. Think about that. It's incredibly powerful. If we went to the Music Hall Williamsburg or Irving Plaza, Bowery Ballroom, if you guys have been to any of these shows, they don't have that. You got it. None of them. So,
and they would charge you a lot if you asked to bring it in.
Well, right. So it's all in-house.
Yeah,
you got
right.
it. By the way, for you to bring, you just need a little stick with your photos. You give it to our guy. Exactly. It's all in-house. You nailed it. And we put the video cameras wired all in-house. If you want to stream, you want to film, we have that. You got it. We have these screens. But if you went to a hotel ballroom or another venue, by the way, the food, they don't have any kitchen. They have to cater it. That's expensive. We did an early event back to the private for the Brooklyn Public Library, and they told us after, and we had the food, and the production is there, right? When they make the speeches, the video, they said that they spent less to do their event, their gala, to raise money, so you want to keep costs down, at Brooklyn Bowl than they did doing it at the Brooklyn Public Library before.
Wow.
Because they had to bring the catering in. They had to rent the production, the stick, the sound, the mic, all that. So they had to build it. So we built something that was, again, back to like a good widget.
Yeah.
And then it's really good for privates with the food. And it's good for shows because it became a soft ticket venue.
Yeah.
Right? There's people coming for fun. They're walking up and not just a hard ticket club. Yeah, that's really why.
100%. So tell us what Fare Thee Well, celebrating 50 years of the Grateful Dead, was for those who might be too young or don't have deadhead parents like me. And can you try to put into words what making such a massive and historic event for a band that is as important to the culture as they are to you means to you?
Well, I'm a Dead fan. You know, that's where a lot of it started for me. I did that. I went on tour. I made that film. And then the first club I took over, Wetlands, the owner saw that film. That's how my story goes to that night. Without me being at that Dead show, I don't go on Dead tour. I don't make a film, and I don't meet Larry Block, who owned Wetlands. I don't. Not wild. I definitely believe I know it. If I hadn't gone that night, I wasn't on. I was not about to go become a rock club owner at 23. So I make the Dead film, and Larry Block, who owned this rock club based on the spirit of the Grateful Dead and booking dead bands, cover bands, jam bands, was looking to pass on the club to someone because it's hard. After 7 years, he's like, I'm done. Totally. And these are venues open every night. It's like every morning there's a problem. The problems come to you, not just the good. I mean, the good stuff's, hearing your introduction, when you get nice stuff. But that's not going to change tomorrow morning when there's a bathroom overflows or someone quit. That's why I'm like, thanks, because I need to hear that every once in a while because it's still hard. But Larry saw my film and knew that I loved the Dead. I just went on. I had Ken Kesey and Wavy, and he helped me. He said, "You can pay me overtime. I'm gonna get." He gave me the club, and I paid him monthly. And I just went for it. With the support of my dad, who was a lawyer, helped me. He was a tax lawyer. I didn't understand anything. I didn't even understand if I had a lawyer, what my lawyer was saying, But I went for it. This was a thing. I also, Jerry Garcia and the Dead had just passed away in 1995. This was 1996. And I knew, because I was on Dead, these kids weren't going away. Kids like me. They're turning 20. They're still going to be wanting to, listening to improvisational music, hang out, twirl, throw frisbee, hanging out. And kids who are in Boulder, Portland, you know what I mean. You know those kids. They're not going away. They would just break up and go to the next version of the Grateful Dead. And that became like jam bands, you guys, or like Fish, or Dave Matthews, or Widespread Panic, or now Goose, Billy Strings, String Cheese, Disco Biscuits. I thought that would all happen. I did. I was like, well, it's going to go somewhere. And then Wetlands was the home of that in New York. So I believe that there would be like a coming heavy flow of bands after Jerry died. Right, the next not that hard to think through, to be honest. I don't know.
Hindsight's 20/20, but you're exactly right.
You get what I can see. You not stringing Jerry's gone. They're not going away. All these people was and so I really fought to take over this great rock club in 1996. He gave it to me, and there's a staff of 50. I was the youngest. I was 23, so that's a good way of learning how to deal with people when you're young. I found Charlie Ryan, who was there, to be like, UPG, I knew what I didn't know. Or I knew I didn't know a bunch. So you find people. Another theme I would give you guys, especially if you're going to go play gigs and try and be in a band, is teammates. That's one nice thing about being in a band. Unless you guys are doing solo, then it's a producer, it's a family member, a brother, sister, cousin, manager, bandmate. All this stuff's easier doing it together with someone. So you were doing that list of stuff. Each one of those things, Lockn, Relix, Jazz and Colors, Wetlands, Brooklyn Bowls, with different people. And, maybe someone who's in a band with you, maybe someone who's helping you knows someone at a venue. knows someone at a studio, knows someone at a label. You know, someone knows someone. Like, so that cross vortexing is really important. You know, just to try, who do I know? Whom do I maybe know? You know, maybe my uncle maybe knows someone or could help me or invest in me. Like, so that's all really important. And I tried to use that. Now back to like New York. When I went to go take over, I don't think Larry Block sells me Wetlands at 23 years old if I was not from New York City. He knew that at least I was young and didn't know a lot, but I knew I was from that land. I was from that city. If I had come in from Wisconsin, like Emily, you know, like, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm here 2 months, you know. I'm 23. I don't think I get it.
Right.
Here's another one I did. This is more, Little was naive, and probably today, you know, people would go to him, the bigger companies called SFX then, and John Scher, Metropolitan, who had been doing this a long time. They all, because Wetlands was famous, they'd be like, hey, Larry, let us see the books, like the numbers. And he'd be like, no, this place is world famous. I'm giving it for very cheap. Here's the rent number, 23, you know. You figure out if you want it or not. And they were like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Which today I'd probably say if someone said no books, you'd say, no way. And but back then I was so young. I'm like, okay, what's the rent? What's like the water bill, the garbage bill, all these like fixed costs he gave me. And I said to my dad, you know, when you have a new business, you're doing projections. Yeah. You know, you don't know the numbers when you're starting new. So I kind of took a tack like, okay, I'm still going to try and do this. I know the rent. I know this. And that got me Wetlands. Because everyone else, when he was like, no, I'm not sharing the books, you either believe, he was looking for someone who believed and would be like, yeah, I'm giving it to you. The rent's this. Can you make Wetlands work? And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, then you get it. That's how I kind of, that helped me, that belief. You know, and I don't know today if someone said that. Now I might be like, no. But I was getting going, and it was a unique situation. Sometimes people do say, like, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. And I just had a unique path, that Wetland. But you got to keep your eye open, maybe start doing things, and you'll see that things may open up. There may be paths. You'll have lots of, like, yields, and then you got to pick left or right. Yeah, go left, and then right, and you'll just keep your eye out for opportunities that may come by that you will realize or not even realize. Just keep your eye out and then be like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Keep trying. You'll get knocked down. It won't work. Even then, it'll work a few times, and then you'll get knocked down. We still get knocked down. But and you'll keep trying to make decisions. Talk it out with people, get advice. Remember those two kids at Brooklyn Bowl? One for sure, I don't need advice. I quit. I got tour. The other one for sure, I'm sure, talked to a parent, was like, you should, before you just quit, you should think through, you should just say you love it here in case you want to come back. That's what that kid came back, got a job. Then I think about that. So talking through things like, yo, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? You know, you have to figure out who you talk to about that. A professor, a teacher, a parent, a cousin, a friend, doesn't matter. Talk it out. I talk shit out all the time. So I just was walking in here. You saw me, I was on the phone with one of my people just talking shit out. Because otherwise you're just in your brain. Yep.
So
luckily I have a bunch of people who work for me, with me, who have to take my call, so.
Which you mentioned in your book are all over the country, so you can reach them anytime you have an idea.
You really did a good job.
I love this book. I'm obsessed. Okay, so you say in the book, and you've alluded to this, I have found that long-term success comes from your response to when things go awry. So what's an example? I mean, it's so true in live shows, and I also want to call back to when we had Run the Jewels co-manager Amici Uzigwe on the podcast in season 1. If you look at his LinkedIn, it's like success off success off success. But when you talk to him, oh my gosh, what that guy's been through. So what's an example of?
I feel the same listening to your introduction. I mean, it sounds great, but it's been hard.
Yeah. So what's, you said you found that long-term success comes from your response when things go awry. So what's an example?
Yeah, keep your head up.
Yeah.
I mean, just like this thing walking in today, we're dealing with something that's like something that's a challenge, about talking it out. Mm-hmm. You guys will get knocked down. You'll play a gig, no one will show up. You'll make a recording, no one will listen. I'm sure it's so competitive, so crowded. Keep trying. It's like, how do you adjust? How do you respond? Mm-hmm. It's hard. You might want to curl up in bed and not get out. Right? We all have been there.
I mean, Amici, Run the Jewels co-manager, talked about, he's like, I was in my brother's basement in like 2011, wanted to hide from the industry. It was like, even though it's public, his ex-wife passed away. He raised these 2 girls himself, and he's just going through all this. And then he'd been managing LP since the 90s. And then when he's in that dark place, LP hooks up with Killer Mike and Run the Jewels forms, and all this stuff happens.
Yeah, you just...
it's not all puppies and rainbows.
No, it's just hard work.
Or fake rainbows.
Keeping
your...
Right, yeah. Keep smiling, try to get up, do it again.
Yeah.
Keep a side hustle. Keep that job on the side.
Right.
Get a job or some kind of thing so that when you have a setback, it doesn't totally crush it. Yeah. Because that's back to that. I think it makes a big difference when you can be trying things, because you're going to need to try it again and again and then adjust and again. And you even look at, I know the Ed Sheeran, I just use an app because I know he's got a story of starting. He was playing alone in a bar. All these guys, sure. Everyone pretty much was. And you just got to wait for that lucky moment. Mm-hmm. It may take years. You guys want to do this? It takes a while. And then you build it. And by the way, with experience, it never gets easy. I don't even know if I put this in there. This might be for the next book. I have a good line. It gets easier, but it never gets easy. But it gets easier, just with reps, experience, time, like just doing gigs, doing recording, doing show. All that kind of stuff. You'll learn, I remember when this happened, so now I'm going to do it this way. So you guys are just starting. So, this is the hardest part. And for me at Wetlands, just starting, because you don't know anything. That's the hardest part. I mean, also when you get bigger, it's harder because you got all types of issues flying around. But you're in the hard part, to be honest. Actually, in venues, it's hardest, like, running a small rock club alone, because it's 600-person rock club. Or I actually have a piece of advice, like, if you guys go do a gig at a local bar and 10, 20 people come, you still go through the process. If you can book that gig yourself, market that gig yourself, sell any tickets yourself, do the show, the load in, or the presentation of the show. You might be playing, you might be a promoter. And then a settlement yourself where you get paid $100. That's still that process that you went through with those steps I described. That's similar if it's 10 people, 100 people, 1,000. If it's 10,000, you still got to book the venue, rent the venue, book the band, could be so, announce the show, promote the show, sell the tickets, put on the show, do the box office. Even if it's 10, 20 people, you're still collecting money. You have a couple people on guest list. You did a sound check, you advance the show with all those things have similarities. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. So now as a venue owner at our 600-person rock club, you still need a production manager managing the equipment. You need a booker who booked the band. You need a marketing person who marketing the shows. Social media posts, like you posting on Instagram, Twitter, doing a TikTok with the art for the show. That you still need to do that 10 people, 1,000 to 10,000, which makes it almost easier in some ways when you're bigger and sell more tickets. It's easier to have more people to do that. Mm-hmm. When you're doing it smaller, like you guys now doing a show, or when I started, you got to do the social media. You have to book the show. You got to advance that. You have to do it all. So it's actually harder. So sorry, but you're in the hard part now.
But also, don't be sorry, because when I was tour managing Dresden Dolls and we were opening for Nine Inch Nails, I had lunch with one of the lighting guys, and he said to me, "Do you know why our production manager is so good at his job?" And I was like 22 or 20. I was like, "No." And he said, "Because he's done all our jobs before." And so you've done that. Like, you've cleaned the bathrooms, you've booked the show, you've advanced the show. Also, not to jump around, you mentioned settlement. What's settling? What does that word mean?
So it's set at the end of the night, right? You drew 21 people at $15. So that'd be, and I can do this stuff in my math, that should be $315. You get good at the head math. And let's say the door deal is probably 80-20, 70-30 to you. So you'll sit there at the venue. They'll take their 30% of 315, and you'll get the difference. And then you might have to pay out your band. You may have to give $100 to the sound guy. That venue might pay the sound guy. But the settlement is going over how much the venue owes you. It's called settling. And that happens at the end of the night. Advancing, if you book your own show, would be talking to the venue in advance and be like, you could ask if they have backline, and backline would be like, this drum kit's backline because it lives here. The venue has it. This room, that's pretty right, has backline.
Yeah.
This guitar, it looks like it lives here. They may be like, we have no backline, so then you have to bring it in. And advancing is talking about, with the production manager of the venue, and by the way, if you're just learning that word, it's a good word to use. Like, do you have any backline? And if it's just, and if not, they'll tell you no. But we have these amps. You'll say, what do you need? I need a B3, or I'll just bring my guitar. Advancing is just advancing and talking about what the equipment needs are for the show. And then you'll go in early to sound check. And that could be local Irish bar back to the 20 people. You still want to do a sound check no matter what, if you can. That'll usually be in the mid-afternoon before the show. Don't ask them to come in too early. They won't like that. If you say, I'd like to come at 11 a.m. or noon, because they try to do it at 3 or 4. That's usually when it is. Small venue, medium venue, large venue, all the same. And that sound check. And then there's something called a rider, which in your first gigs will probably have nothing on it, right? Because it's a little rock club. But as you get bigger, a rider would be like, or maybe you'll get water on your first one. Waters, 6 waters, 12 waters, they'll tell you. Maybe you get some M&Ms. Mm-hmm. As you get bigger, you can ask for green M&Ms.
Why do people do that? Because that is kind of like a pop culture joke, but why?
Sometimes the test is green M&Ms to test to see if they're reading the rider. Right, isn't that like
the attention to detail? The
attention to see it versus, we didn't even notice because we're not reading it. Here's a salami plate and some water. Yeah. As the bands get bigger and they move to bigger rooms, the riders get more complex. And if it's an arena band, then they can ask for Dom Perignon. I want fried chicken from Blue Ribbon. You can ask for more particular things.
And it might sound like diva stuff, but even like doing this event, like I said to my podcast manager, there has to be a clock in my sight line. Otherwise, I have no idea what's going on. I don't want to be looking at my watch. We're going to add end tables, so I'm not like reaching to the ground. I added that for you today. Don't need you like reaching to the ground. So anyway, this stuff's important.
It works. These are small things, but look, I put my wallet, my glasses. These are small things, but remember, back to like details matter.
Yeah.
I came out to do this thing. Otherwise, it would have been on the ground. Like, I appreciate that. The water's right here. Small things. Let me tell you, the whole thing is an amalgamation of small things.
Yeah.
And when you go to a show and there's a long line at the bar, long line at the bathroom, long line at the box, that could throw off your juju. And then once you get in a bad mood, you wait too long. Little thing, if one part goes wrong in a live experience, it can take the whole thing down. That's for sure. People then go a little bit sideways.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm sure you get this all the time. Like, oh, your job's so cool, And it's like, if you go to a great show and the sound is awesome and it's a great experience, you just have a great time. Like no one, people are like, yeah, that was great. But when something goes wrong, that's when you hear about it. That's the not fun part.
And that's when you got to stay steady.
Yeah.
We talked about try to stay even. Things are going wrong. You know, weather's hard. If you guys ever play an outdoor gig, you do it in your backyard. My first event was the Hamlin Street Block Party. I did it in college. Yeah. Back to this all. And like we had pretty good weather, but I remember being nervous. Rain. You cannot control the weather. Mm-hmm. It's rough when it rains. Everything starts to go wrong. Mm-hmm. Things take longer. Right? Load in. That's another word we've used. We're talking about load. Load in is just bringing the equipment in to sound check in the daytime. You know, they might have someone there to open the door. They might have someone there to open the door and help you bring it in. Yeah. You should offer, like, I'll carry my amp. You know, people, I think, don't, whatever the size of the venue, they'd appreciate that versus, here's my amp, can you carry it in? Mm-hmm. Again, when you get to the bigger level, Capitol Theater, thousands of people, or arenas, then they'll have crew there to, like, take all your stuff, and you'll probably have your own crew. But when you're starting, you are the crew.
It's exercise. Sorry to interrupt. That's what I used to say on the road. I didn't mind loading. But also you're saying when you're rolling up, like part of your advance should be who's my day of show contact and what is their mobile number. Because you could be advancing with someone else who's not there, and then it's freezing and raining, and you're just standing outside.
And another term, we talked about like advancing, load in, sound check, settlement, announcing. Yeah. You want to be coordinated with the venue.
That's right.
For announcing your show. I mean, you guys, we're in probably early, smaller shows where you could say, hey, we're going to do it on Thursday. As you get bigger, it'll be like Thursday at noon. Yep. And you will coordinate with the venue, your posts, and then you'll hit all the platforms. Mm-hmm. So you're hitting, like our venues are, you know, obviously you have a TikTok, Instagram, now TikTok, obviously huge, and you'll do something. The most powerful is the email. In our experience, the email list. If you guys can build for your band an email list, it could start at 10 emails to put your friends on. You know, because opt-in email is the most effective way to communicate information about a show. So, and you want the venue to include your show on their email. Yep. You want them to post. You want them to do a native, dedicated post for your show. But you really want to be included in the email. They probably will not do a dedicated email for you. You'll be in a weekly email. Most venues are weeklies, and they list shows. If you can get in there, our experience in our venues is that's the most effective way to communicate that you're playing and having.
Yeah, and to that point on announcing, get in the habit, you know, when you are booking your own shows, like when do we announce, when do we go on sale? Because like, is, you know, Peter going to kick you out of his room if you leak the show? No. But if you're on Coachella and you leak that you're playing before, you know, some bigger festivals might be like, no, that was part of the deal. You know, like their big reveal is the lineup. So just get in that, you know, that was a really good point on announcing. So, you know, you mentioned texting, email, social media. You've been at the forefront of technology throughout your career. For a guy that defines live, what has piqued your interest from 3D to live streaming and more when it comes to tech?
Well, you mentioned 3D. That was just an effort to, like, you know, live music. You don't see it on TV. When I grew up, it was on television more. Like channels like Bravo, A&E, MTV, VH1, PBS even had a lot of live music on them. Shows, you remember VH1 Divas, yeah. Or PBS Bravo, or A&E Live by Request. You'd see live shows. Mm-hmm. VH1 and MTV was live performances all the time. They don't even show videos. It's all right. So live music's off TV. You know, I think the flat screen, even streaming, it was much bigger during COVID. Yeah. Live streaming concert bigger. It's softer now, lighter. So when I played around in doing technology, because I love that, and 3D and breaking through, and, you know, I actually have a meeting after this about virtual reality and shooting live music in VR to kind of break through, because it's nice on here and it's better than nothing, but it's not like, and that's one nice thing in a virtual, in a technology advanced world. live music, the experience of going to a show cannot be replaced. Right? We live in a world where a lot's being replaced. We live in a world where you can stay at home and just watch Netflix and watch TV, but someone once said about me, like, my Netflix is in my head. Like, don't lose that. To make this work for you guys, you got to be thinking, dreaming, you know, lie down, look at the ceiling at the end of the day and, like, have that net, because it takes energy to, like, game it out. But one nice thing we're seeing post-COVID is nothing replicates the live. Nothing ever will, right? You still got to be there to feel it. And actually live music doesn't really work that well through this stuff. I mean, it's better than nothing. We do it. It's cool to watch. But it'll be interesting if the new Vision Pro, the Apple thing, had a movie, these goggle stuff can take you closer in the experience than just a phone or a TV. But one nice thing is live will never be replaced by technology. You gotta go to the show.
Yeah, 100%. Activism has always been intertwined in your career, from your days at Wetlands, giving proceeds to environmental justice, to your record-breaking contributions registering music fans to vote at HeadCount. Why is making the world a better place important to you beyond just producing epic concerts and events?
Well, I come from Wetlands and the whole dead thing, and I think that's why those kids in 1993 in the parking lot we talked about, they were chasing, music started rock and roll in the 60s with meaning, social justice. The 60s, Summer of Love, and Wetlands was a pre-internet place, and the idea of Wetlands was run by a hippie, Grateful Dead hippie, was to utilize this space to help organize, to let nonprofit organizations organize. Like if you were Amnesty International, Rainforest Action Network, and you wanted to get people organized, there was no meetup.org. There was no Instagram, make a post, say if you want to get involved in this thing, come, let's talk, or come do a chat, or we'll do a Zoom. There was come meet here, Thursday at 8, because it's 1990, 89. And so that was the idea of Wetlands, was where are young people going to come together, the library, the park, the school, or the club, the rock club. And people would come to the rock club before the show to organize, to meet about an issue. And when he gave me the club, part of the way I got it was I said, I'll continue that. I actually signed a piece of paper that we would give a percentage of our money to hire people who did these meetings. So that was a big part. And so I learned firsthand, seeing that you could be at the show, but also have information on the walls, meetings before the show, and organize and be about something. Yeah. So we took that, we created something called HeadCount that was to utilize young people being at shows, signing up to vote. That's where it started 20 years ago. And now we do some broader participation kind of stuff, but it's still, and now like Billie Eilish, Ariana Grande, Harry Styles, the acts that perform particularly to some younger audiences, we have a presence there. You might see a table at an arena show, HeadCount, and it's just like trying to do something positive while you're having fun. You can still do, we might as well try. We have a big hill in front of us. Yeah. It's not easy out there, but we might as well try and do something positive. So that's where HeadCount comes from.
Love it. It's New York Music Month, and your book is such a beautiful journey down memory lane for so many of us. What does New York City mean to you as someone who grew up here, has created experiences for so many, and chose to raise their family here?
Oh, I'm still in it. Yeah. So I don't really get to sit back and be like, oh, I'm still building it. Yeah. Still not, haven't made the ton of, one day maybe I'll sell it all and then think about that. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm still fighting. Yeah. Trying to get people to come to this show or doing this or that. Like you're in it. Yeah. So once you're in it that much, I don't think you're not stopping and be like, oh, I've got my family, this, that. You're just waking up back in the bat, Mm-hmm. And I'll bet if you ask Mike Luba there, our friend, who also is like me doing show, had success, he's probably also like, what? He's just so in it.
Yeah. Mike Luba is my mentor, just FYI.
And so you guys are in it too. You're here. Yeah. By the way, that's a good start, I'd say. I do. I believe that. Yeah. That the fact anyone who's just here showed up 11 a.m., it's a weekday, and you come, you don't have to be here, brother. You could have just stayed home. You could be out in the park, nice day. So honestly, the fact that anyone who's in this room, just to hear about that's the kind of step and kind of thing you need to do to just navigate it. And it doesn't really stop, for better or worse. I mean, it's fun, but like, even when you get to here, we're still in it, figuring it out.
So true. You say in your book you're better at regulating stress these days a bit. How do you do so?
Well, I just did a workout earlier.
Yeah, I love to hear that.
Walk a lot. Mm-hmm. Walk on the phone a lot. Go to shows still. And the shows are still great fun. That never fades. Yeah. For me, a live music experience, I still love going to the shows, whether it's my own or particularly even going to shows that are not mine. Because you're not looking around for all the problems. Or not looking around for everything that's going wrong. You can relax a little more. So for me, I still love going to that. Hasn't faded really at all. Yeah. And it's even remarkable to me, Grateful Dead music or Jammys, like, never fades. For me, you guys, whoever's your favorite, you'll love it. And I love going to cover bands. I don't need to see, I like going to the big shows, but for me, whether it's small, medium, big, it can still work. Yeah. As long as it's good. And that's one cool thing. The live thing, you'll see, it just doesn't fade. We're humans. I think we need that.
100%. And you mentioned before, it's so interesting because I used to give this advice when I was managing artists. You say in your book, you should not let yourself get too high or too low. Stay in the middle. So I just really wanted to echo. That was very validating to me because, like I said, I felt that way as a manager for a long time. And you've definitely, mentioned this. You can't see it if you're not there. And you guys are here, which is awesome. So we're just going to spend a few minutes digging in on some nuts and bolts on booking and promoting a show, and then we'll open it up to you guys. So the title of this episode is Your Live Strategy and Efficient Touring. And, the first chapter of the book this podcast is based on is called Get Your Art Together. And I feel the same way when it comes to the live space with regard to practice makes perfect. So what is the importance of, like one of your smaller rooms like Garcia's and other smaller rooms within venues you've owned to develop talent? Why is that significant? Why is that important?
Oh, like we have bands that headline with Cap now who started at Garcia's, like Goose is a new band. That, so it's great to be involved as bands emerge and start. It's hard to do that at Brooklyn Bowl, which is 900 cap, and have a band come and do 30 the baby bands don't, And that's the thing. If you guys want to get it going, people are always like, what do I need to do? Yeah. You're in two different worlds. You're in a digital world. Mm-hmm. You're in a Spotify world on the left hand for recording, trying to use technology, digital, socials to get people to do listens, which is digital. And then you're in an analog side, which is going to shows, which is just selling how many people come. That's all it's going to be. And get your friends. If you guys are ever playing a club, it's no problem if 10 people come, 20. You can't have a zero. Yeah. You can have a guest list. You can have your mom. Like, if I were you guys and playing a gig somewhere, I'd have your mom or your brother or your cousin or your friends buy a $10 ticket, $20 ticket, just to show you have a couple tickets sold. Yep. We'll start at the beginning, 5 tickets. It's better than 0. Don't go in and do 0 sold. And if you're going to do 0 or 5, then have some guests come. But if you can have your friends, if people are ever like, what can I do? Buy a ticket. That's the favor. Yeah. What can I do? Buy a ticket. Because the venue is going to notice. Yeah. And selling any kind of tickets will help you. And so we see that. Like you asked, like we don't have a lot of small rooms, but Garcia's, it's Bob Dylan's agent. I'm going to have to take this.
I mean, you can take it if you need. We can take a set break.
Hey, buddy.
Peter Shapiro, everyone.
I'm good. Kind of inside, but I saw it was you, so I took it. I'd like that.
We have Free Liquid
Kurt.
Death back there.
Do you remember Kurt Peterson? You know Kurt. Yeah, I'm gonna text it to you right now. Thank you, buddy. That's why I picked it up. You ready? I'm in the middle of speaking to a group, a class about music.
Welcome to the music
2
business.
nights. Bob Dylan, it was that.
Yeah.
I was glad I took it. See, you got to move in the moment, and now I told him I would text him someone's number to get on it. And that's another one. No matter what you're doing, maybe sometimes you got to pick it up.
100%.
You can keep going.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Can you talk about Bob Dylan's significance to the Capitol Theater, which you...
Is that really your next question?
No.
He played our opening night, which is cool. When we reopened it, September 4th, 2012. And he loves the venue, and he's Bob Dylan. You know, that's why you do this for, like, moment. And you can see now I'm feeling smiling. It's like hit a dope, whatever, energy.
Sure, yeah.
You know, when you get a good show, you're feeling good, or you have a shot at it. And when you lose one, and we lost one last night, you get bummed out.
Yeah.
Still. So it's up and down.
Which is why you
That's
don't want
back
to
to
get
the
too
stay
high on
straight.
the list.
Yeah. Which is
not
easy to say
Yeah.
and harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really important, you know, to try to keep your energy straight.
For sure. So if an artist is approaching you or one of your talent buyers, what's appealing to them? Like, what do you want to see? How about a short email?
What is someone say? Oh, yeah, shorter. Yeah, don't go too long. You know what you want to see? That they sell tickets.
Yes, that's the answer I'm looking for.
Was it? Yeah, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
We, lots of email, and people say, listen to this. Yeah. I hate to say it. For our role is to present music with people in the room. And that's why get people out. Ask your friends to come. Put them on the guest list. If some will buy a ticket, great. But even a guest list. Get a mixed crowd, not just dudes. You know, by the way, if you can get women or men, the others follow for sure. And just a great, diverse, good group of people. If they'll buy a drink, great. Doesn't matter if they don't. But just any kind of human being. They should be over 21 if you can, Some shows are 18 plus, but it's better. Really try, and then you can write a note to a talent buyer and be like, I want to come play. And write that in the front, I'm going to deliver people. I can deliver people. Even if it's not a huge, again, start small. Yeah. Get your reps in. I've done, it says in about 10,000 shows. Started small. Still do small, just nothing wrong with starting small. You'll get experience. You'll learn how to play. Don't start too big. Don't try.
How about if an artist says, too, like, this is my only show in the market, and it's special because it's my release show or it's a unique collaboration?
Great, yes. Anything you can add to make it sound like, it's my artist release. I'm going to put extra energy. I have 100 followers, 1,000 social followers. Maybe outline you have all that. Maybe go to the venue, say hi to the booker in person, say hi to the manager in person. Be like, hey, I'm here. I've got a band. I'd love to play. I'm going to bring all my friends. Yeah. You can play and listen. That's probably more important to the booker. I hate to say that. I'm going to bring all my friends. Then my music's amazing.
Yeah. It's true. You could be the Beatles. Like, do you sell tickets?
That's why you're here. You guys are learning, just be like, I can get my friend. And that's why do it when you're in college or you're young. Being social, being out there, going to shows, that's all helpful. We talked about being in a team. If you don't have a ton of friends, but you have a drummer who does, great. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Let the drummer get everyone out. You have a cousin. That's a benefit of being in a band. Get everyone in the band to get their friends. If everyone in the band, there's 5 people in the band, and they'll each get 4 people to buy a ticket. You just sold 20 tickets. That might get you booked again.
Yeah, I have a friend that sold out Mercury Lounge, and she's like, my mom is here, my grandmother is here. I mean, she's from Westchester, so she just packed it out, Along those same lines, I hear from artists all the time, like, if I can just get an agent, I'll get on the road. So what are booking agents looking for?
People who sell tickets. So you'll do it on your own at first, and then you'll want to get an agent. An agent might get noticed because you sell tickets, or your stream numbers certainly can help too. But at first, it's just going to be you on your own. Back to your relationships. Who do you know in Boston? If you're band members, some of them can be from other places in the country and in the Northeast. So we have someone from Philly, or maybe my cousin's in Boston and has a friend who works at this play. You know, that'll help. Obviously, doing everything online and digital and socials, all will help. That'll help you sell organic tickets just on their own. You know, and then you want to augment that through your own relationships, and that will lead to the booking agent. That's down the line. When you're really going, you'll get an agent. That may take a while, which is okay.
Yeah, and an agent's going to expect you to sell 100, 200, 300, 500 tickets in your home market. So it's like, even if you're from Milwaukee, and I know this means nothing to anyone here, but you're playing like Turner Hall, you're playing a big like 1,000 cap room. They're like, great, what are your hard ticket counts in Chicago? What are your hard ticket counts in Minneapolis? And they're actually going to expect that a little bit regionally too. So in my experience, I mean, obviously booking agents love music, but like they're spreadsheet people. Are you selling the tickets? So I also hear from artists like, oh, if I can get a booking agent, I'll get support slots. So how do artists get support
That's
slots?
That's the thing you want, number one.
Oh, sorry. And what does support slot mean? I should
Opening.
define it. Yeah.
You want to open for anyone. If you guys have a friend who's got traction, who's drawing, get an opening slot. Number one. Back to Brooklyn Bowl. We became popular because it was like you could play and 400 people were there no matter what. We used to joke. You could say, you could put Emily White and Peter Shapiro on stage on a Saturday in the winter at Brooklyn Bowl. It's serious. And there's 400 people there because they paid $15 to go hang, bowl, the food. And you want to play in front of new people. That's the number one thing. That back to like, that's why at the bowl you could play in front of new people who just because it was only $15, they don't know who you are, but they're like, you're good. At Irving Plaza, once it's 25, 30, you know, it's hard to get new people. But you could open for someone who sold out music hall at 30. And if you can play in front of someone, it'd be great. Any friend, and co-bill. By the way, you guys have friends who are also in a band, a different band. Go together to that venue and say, I want to come play. I'm going to play with this band also. We're going to do a co-bill. They're going to open. You can get 2 other bands. If you could go to someone and say, I have a 3-band bill built for you. We're each going to bring 30 people. That's 90. They each, everyone, 3 bands times 4 or 5 each. If you could pull that off, call it 5, which would be amazing. That's 15. Yeah. If everyone sells 5 tickets each, that's 75 tickets. You'll get booked again.
You said a really significant word, too, with regard to getting opening slots, friends. You know, like, you know, get together with other friends and tour and play shows. Like, people want to, like, touring is traveling. So people want to travel and go on the road with people they like. Like, the vast majority of support slots, well, all support slots are ultimately decided by the headlining artist, right? So it's cultivating, it's what you guys are doing now, right? Like, it's cultivating those genuine artist-to-artist relationships. So just 2 last questions for me, and then we'll open it up to the audience. You know, VIP packages have really exploded at all levels. So what are the best, which is a great revenue stream for artists, what are the best VIP artist packages you've seen at any level?
Oh, the best? Well, they're getting really creative now and expensive for big shows, you know, but meet the artist, you know, or watching a special part of the venue. You know, now they come with food, drink, a special T-shirt, a special poster for VIP, a special hang area, a pre-game hang. Come watch sound check. Come get into the venue first. Early entry. These are all VIP type of things that people are offering. Meet and greet after, photo with the artist, signed book, signed poster. Those are all things that then you can lift the ticket part. And that's usually with artists who are established and playing bigger venues. We don't get as much of that like at Brooklyn Bowl as we will at the Capitol Theater. Sure. Brooklyn Bowl's 900, it caps 2,000. You see more of that, and then even more at arenas. But when we do a GA open floor, early entry's good because people will pay to get in early and run to the rail. And we do some at Brooklyn Bowl, come in early and watch sound check. So all that's now available.
And it's ultimately the stuff you'd want as a fan, right? Like,
Yeah, a lot of this is helpful that I'm a fan and
Yeah.
think about it. But that's become a bigger part of this, but it won't help you when you're just trying to sell 30 tickets at a local bar, venue. That's going to be more helpful downstream, or just that you guys have an understanding of this stuff will be great.
absolutely. So your badass wife is also a force in the industry as a VP at Shorefire, one of the top PR firms in the music industry. How do you guys find balance? Because you're both like doing so much.
It's hard. I mean, that's back to staying here.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you have a loved one and they could be in music or not, it doesn't really matter. But trying to stay when you're bummed out because you didn't get a gig, or you're bummed out because you played and no one showed up. When you come home, just do your best to stay here, because maybe you'll get a phone call and Bob Dylan will want to play, and life is just ups and downs. And you just got to keep going, keep fighting, and keep going. Wake up, get out, be like, something good's going to happen.
That's
You
right.
got to keep maneuvering, adjusting, and just give it your best shot.
Absolutely. So we've got about 9 minutes for questions before we let Peter go, and then I'm going to make you stick around a little bit longer to dig in a little bit more on nuts and bolts on booking and promoting a show. But if you have a question, come up to the audience mic over here and introduce yourself. Yeah, thanks. Means a lot.
Hello. Are we on here?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. My name is Taurus. I'm from 333 Music, and we're called the Funktastics. We're like a duo of singers, dancers, and we play some live instrumentation in our show, but there's some backing tracks. So we've been working on putting together a new album, and in that process, at the beginning of this year, we got a booking agent in Los Angeles called Breakpoint Booking. And they have like Keke Palmer and a lot of these different artists that are in the soul, hip hop genre. So the funny thing is that now we have a booking agent before we are doing the shows, although we have experience doing shows, and we're rehearsing now and putting together the live experience. But my question that you touched on earlier would be, what can we do right now to impress our booking agent in New York City and also build our fan base here? I guess I want to say not quickly, but we want to prove to our booking agent that we're viable, you know what I mean, and that we're thriving, because they believe in us already. We're on the website and everything now, which was
Will they let you just book some of your own shows here?
Yeah.
I would try to book a show here on a Saturday night, in a smaller venue, and invite all your friends out.
Yeah.
Give them a fucking hell of a time.
Yeah.
Maybe try an opening slot. Maybe ask the agent if they can help you get on any bill. You'll take no money, small money. You'll just want to play so you can get video.
Yeah,
That's the other thing. If you ever get a gig, video it, if you can. I don't know how dialed in your agent. They got to be pretty dialed, because they got Kiki, Any kind of opening slot, any kind of video you can create, and any kind of show you can do here. Put yourself on a weekend. Don't put it on a weekday.
Yeah.
I think summer's a lot harder, unless it's an outdoor. And maybe a soft ticket show. So playing the White Plains Music Fest, Yonkers Fest, outdoor, where they're looking for fun. We would call it it sounds like your band would fit well with some of those soft ticket festival where they're looking for fun, for a lot of dance music, not looking for a solo acoustic folk artist, at a festival that's fun, So keeping your eye out for that, then calling the event and saying, hey, we're the Funktastics. I think it's right.
Yeah.
And if you have a video of it and say, we want to come, we can play, a 45-minute hour set. We have originals. We do covers. I'm sure you do a couple covers. We're a 10-piece, whatever. We have dancers, and we'll play for 500, any of that. But anything your agent can get you on, any kind of soft ticket festival thing, any festival gig, playing first would be amazing. Anything at any club venue that you see opening would be amazing. Having videos help. You can do music, but showing your show, because the video has the audio and a video, right? You're showing it
Yeah.
and they can hear it. Versus sending a Spotify link, I think video is a lot better.
Yeah, and that's
Creating
what
a
we're trying
video.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do right now. Like this first show that we do, we want to be able to capture it so that we can put together something that shows exactly what our stage show is like. Because
Right.
our agent saw a sort of like a music video that we put together, and then they saw the history of what we were already doing, and that's what convinced them to bring us on. But yeah, we're trying to put together this first show that we can film and get put together really nicely, so we can kind of show what the Funktastics is, because a lot of people don't really understand it until they see it.
One other thought, I don't know if you want to, you don't have to keep it forever, but for a while it's maybe a tagline,
Yeah.
a subtitle like Funktastics, bringing the funk to the new generation, or bringing the funk home, or I don't know what it is, but adding a little more to the Funktastics.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you get going, you're drawing that, you don't have to keep it. I wonder if Parliament Funkadelic ever had a bringing the funk. But my gut would be maybe you add a little descriptive line underneath the Funktastics that reflects what you just said. How great. And, a combination of dance, music, dance, and always the funk, or whatever it is, or musical funk, dance funk, And how can you be different?
Yeah.
You mentioned dancers to me.
Yeah.
That popped out to me.
Yeah.
That is different than just a funk band.
Right.
So putting that in the description, because if he's on the phone, hey, I got the Funktastics.
Yeah.
That may not say it as much as it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
We've been using the next generation of funk, like it's in our music, that like movie voice is in our music. So you've got
The funk comes around again.
Thank you
The
so
next
much.
generation. What? Thank you.
Oh, I was just saying thank you so much for that, because now I'm definitely going to do that.
That was good. That's why you came.
I would also say give your booking agent some tools, like if you're landing any press hits, syncs, any other buzz that's going to get them excited that they can share with promoters. Any other questions for Peter? Erin's shaking her head no because she knows I'm going to call her out. I have one last question. Oh, great. Yeah, come on up. Oh, April, yeah. Try to make it short because Peter has to run in a few.
Very short, I promise.
And April's a great photographer if you guys
Hi.
need anyone at Brooklyn Bowl.
Yeah, I'm the season 3 photographer, also a tour manager and work at a record label. I'm curious about the paywalls to purchasing VIP and ticket packages that I've been seeing popping up all over the place. The best example I found recently was Big Time Rush announced their headline tour, and a lot of the VIP and tickets sold to their fan club that you have to pay like $70 a year for. Where do you see the future of that going? Do you think it'll be more?
It's part of the
prevalent?
game. Yeah, I think that whole membership club kind of thing is where culture, whether it's nonprofits, museums, I'm on the board of New York Public Radio or City Parks Foundation, which is Summer Stage, and they're doing more and more membership programs. VIP is just going to be part of this, which, by the way, opens opportunities for you guys with jobs and different parts of this live economy. Like there's a live music. There's just like 10, 20 years ago, you couldn't go work in VIP. And it augments the revenue because it's so expensive to do this, but that stuff will really becomes into play when you're already established, right? Because as an emerging band, no one's paying for the VIP. There is no VIP. There's no real VIP at the club, really baby band stuff. Once you start selling out shows, things, then some of your fans are going to be like, I'll pay extra to come to sound check. I'll pay extra for a poster, but when you're a baby band, there may not even be try to make a poster, by the way. The Funktastics, like you share the first gig you get, you're going to film it. I'd make a poster, get the art, make it digital, share it. I would do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Last question. And actually, while you're coming, I have a 2-second question. How far in advance are your rooms booking out right now, post-pandemic, roughly? Like how far in advance?
We're 6 months out,
Okay, great.
I'd say
Thank you.
usually.
Come on up.
Months
Yeah.
out. Smaller venues. By the way, halls open. Are we
Yeah.
booking something in 3 weeks on a Tuesday in July? Yes.
Hi, I'm Marina.
Look for those halls.
Yeah.
You guys wanted a bigger venue, like, hey, we could. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm Marina. I'm currently an intern at BMI, and I'm a rising junior at Middlebury College, also a singer-songwriter myself. But I'm wondering, also I'm a student right now, so I'm wondering how you feel like your education at Northwestern helped you and maybe gave you a leg up throughout your time in industry.
Well, good question. Well, I studied radio, TV, film, poli-sci. Those film, music, a lot of the kids were culturally attuned, artistic. Where you are in Middlebury, I'm sure there's some similar cool kids or kids who are into music like you. Listen, you have Burlington, not that far. It's a little far. Maybe there's little bars. I know, in Middlebury is a little small, so you'd have to go out to Burlington, where there's opportunities to intern at Higher Ground, that's right. And just seek them out. It's hard, but maybe go in Middlebury. I don't know if there's ever a performance at the Middlebury Inn, or I know Middlebury a little, or any place. Go there, and you know what? Lean into saying hi to someone. Mm-hmm. Lean in at the bar, hey, or or a post on a Craigslist. If you look, it's amazing how many bands. Nirvana, or U2. If you look at U2 starting, they put up a post at the school. Put up a piece of paper at Middlebury in the area where they put it, looking for bandmate. Looking for band. I swear, I think you never know it comes back. I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's an online digital world, but putting those pieces of paper up, looking for, may help you find. That's the biggest thing in Northwestern I found was people finding the kid to go on the road to do the Dead film with me. Then also going to my professor to get him to agree to help me get student credit. If Middlebury senior year will give you student credit, then you can do some kind of project that is, again, with a net because you're doing it through college versus waiting till you're done with college.
Yep. Thank you so
And
much.
I know Laura Walker, the head of your school, right?
Wait, who?
Is Laura Walker the head of, anyways, no. She was the head of New York
Go
Public.
find Laura.
I think it may be the other college in Vermont I'm thinking about, sorry.
Well, I want to echo what you were saying before, too. Take advantage of the resources that are in-house. So, when Aaron's class and I produce a festival on campus, I'm like, does the on-campus venue have insurance? Yes. We get free food. We don't have to I'm like, you guys take advantage of this. This is
totally
awesome.
Totally.
I love it.
Totally.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your insight. It means
It's great
so
you
much.
guys are here.
Yes.
I mean, that's a good start.
Absolutely.
And Emily knows what's up. Yeah, I mean, we just hit a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
good luck.
Well, have
Fantastics.
have a great time tonight. Yeah. And we'll be in touch.
And tonight, I'm going to the Go-Go Bordello. Has a movie about them at Tribeca, and I'm going, and we'll see. And go to film screenings, go to concert screenings, go out. You guys, if you look at the history of rock and roll and these bands that get together, they meet. Out, and I ran into this guy, I met him, and it takes a village. It is a team. It's very rare that it's I did it all on my own.
Yeah.
Do your best. And if you're not an outgoing social person, you might find someone who you get along with who is. Mm-hmm. You guys are a team. It's much easier to try to do it as a team. Just the fact that you guys showed up at this thing in the morning, you're on your way. That's step one.
I love it. Thank you, Peter. Yep. So stick around. I'm going to keep you guys for 15 more minutes. We're just going to rip through a few more booking and promoting basics 101. And thanks so much to Brad, too. Appreciate it. Yeah, great to meet you. Okay, so when you reach out to a venue, you want to reach out as early as possible. As you heard from Peter, Brooklyn Bowl and his rooms are booking 6 months out. Sometimes bigger venues can book a year out. Post-pandemic, there was such a bottleneck of traffic. Sometimes it was 18 months out. So the talent buyer is going to come back to you and say, okay, your 5th hold for this date, or your 10th hold, or your 15th hold. Because a lot of times national booking agents are holding a whole bunch of dates because they're still routing their tour. A lot of times they're trying to find their anchor date. An anchor's often going to be your hometown show, the city or market that you sell the most amount of tickets, right? So say your 5th hold for a date. The terminology you want to use next, if you're ready to go for that Friday night in October or whatever, is, Aaron, your instincts are correct. If you don't mind closing the door. Thank you. Maybe that wasn't your instincts, but it looks like it. Okay. So say you're fifth hold and you're ready to go for that date. You're going to say, I would like to challenge for that date. And so what that means is the talent buyer is going to go back to the first hold and say, okay, you have a challenge for the date. You have 24 hours to confirm or release the date. And like I said, a lot of national booking agents are often holding more than one date. So they're like, that's cool. Actually, we want to go for that Saturday so we can release it. Okay? So then the talent buyer, venue, promoter, sometimes these folks are interchangeable. Sometimes they're all different people, depending on the size of the venue. They're going to come back to you with an offer. And Peter mentioned door deals. Door deals are actually where you're going to make the most money. So whether you're getting 90% of ticket sales at $1, 80%, 70%, if you know you crush in your hometown, you're going to make more money than if you get a guarantee. Because if you get a guarantee, you're going to get, say, like $1,000 guarantee, and then you're going to get 85% after expenses are recouped. So that means you need to sell $1,000 worth of tickets. You need to make the venue's rent back. You need to make the venue's, whatever they're paying the crew and the sound people and the towels and the catering and all of that. So it's not as like sexy or exciting, but 90% of of all the money is better than recouping some expenses that might be real or not real, right? But as you grow, the reason artists want to take guarantees, even, like Peter said, at like the $1 million level or whatever, is because then you know how much money you will definitely get, and you can start booking hotels, and at the higher level, like hiring your crew, and like, okay, we have X amount, for expenses and food and gas and all of that. So, great. Okay, so once you have your deal sorted out, then, like we said, you want to say, when can we announce this show and when can we go on sale? And a lot of times, I'm just making this up, but a lot of times, rooms like Peter's rooms might be like, okay, we announce shows on Tuesdays every week and we go on sale on Fridays. And that way, like the fans of Brooklyn Bowl or the fans of that venue know that, and they can count on that. And like I said, get in that habit, because you don't want to leak your own news, at a festival and get thrown off a major festival because you leaked that you were on it, even though, you're obviously well-intentioned and excited. So once you have that information, okay, this is when we're announcing, this is when we're going on sale, it's time to promote your shows. And, Peter talked about email lists. That's a huge theme of this podcast. Text list, your community.com text list. Those direct-to-fan communications are the most effective. And then, of course, your social media announcements. And we talked about this with Junae yesterday. But tag the venues. Tag the other artists you're playing, right? Like, if you are working super hard promoting a show, but not tagging Brooklyn Bowl, and your show tanks, like Peter and his team are going to be like, well, they didn't promote the show. They didn't care, right? But if you are like hustling and working it and really pushing the show, and the show doesn't do that well, it's like, you know what? Like, they put the effort in, I'm going to give them a second chance next time, So, and also, like, it literally helps the promotion. I remember I was biking on one of the first beautiful days of the year over the Williamsburg Bridge to see a band at Pianos, and I said, I'll just show the band, they won't care. Excited to see At the Big Sleep at Pianos, and then Pianos retweeted me to their 50,000 followers, and I remember thinking, I wish they would retweet the band, So, so just get in the habit so these things can be added to stories, and the word can be spread, which can't happen if you're not tagging. So also, after you confirm a show, you can say to whoever your contact is at the venue, do you have a press list that we could use to serve as a press release? Some venues are just going to give you their local press list, and this is really handy if you're touring, right? Because you don't know the writers in Cleveland or whatever. But also say, or can we give you a press release that you guys service, because some venues don't want to give out their press contacts, but they're going to appreciate that you did the legwork and all they have to do is press send. Another thing you can do is entice your fans to push the show for you. So you could post the ticket link for your tour on social media and say, anyone that shares this, adds it to story, comments, retweets, is entered in a drawing to be on the guest list, right? And then you're incentivizing your fans to promote and push out the show. That's also a great thing. If you're not doing that already, it's a great thing to keep in the back of your mind. If Peter or a promoter comes to you and is like, hey, you know, is there anything else we can do to push this show? Like, the advanced sales are low, it's not doing well. I feel like in my experience, the standard industry answer is like, okay, we'll tell the publicist, we'll tell the radio team. Well, if doing that always meant selling tickets, then everybody would just do it, right? So let the promoter know what I just said. Hey, why don't we run a viral campaign, post the tour link, ask the fans to share it on social, and then they will be entered in a drawing to win. Promoters are always really impressed by this too. I mean, we obviously want you to sell tickets and we want the word to spread. But, you know, like I said, a lot of times it's not always what you do, it's how you make people feel. And you want these folks remembering you. I mean, Peter's an icon, but it's just like, imagine like playing Wetlands back in the day, you know, and then now he's got Brooklyn Bowl, and now, you know, he's producing all these huge festivals. So, you know, you want to do right by promoters. You know, you guys tend to know if in real life street teams are effective in your market. So that's another way you can empower your fans. You know, give them posters, flyers, postcards, to get out to coffee shops, anywhere that it's okay, you know, to post that stuff. And you pay for all that, and you pay for the materials, have them take photos, send them to you, and then they'll get to be on the guest list. So that's another way to really empower your super fans to spread the word. We're going to talk more about this in our next episode next week. But make sure you have merch. You know, like if you've ever been to a show and you want to support the artist and then they have nothing for sale, like that's always a huge bummer. And also don't forget data collection. You know, make sure you're collecting as many mobile phone numbers through your community.com list at the merch table. Same with your email list. You can give out, you know, a button, badge, sticker for folks that sign up. It's also a nice icebreaker at the merch table. So when folks are mulling around, you can be like, hey, do you want to join our text list? Do you want to join our email list? And, you know, Peter really reiterated the power of direct to fan. And you could also ask the venues you're working with if they will share email addresses of ticket buyers, of your ticket buyers, right? Like, because you're the artist, and some are going to say no, but some are going to say yes. So you really want to be like an anteater for email addresses and fan mobile phone numbers. So when you're, you know, that's how you book and promote a local show. And like I said, like you don't want to be playing every night. You want to focus in on your show. I think, you know, if you know what a radius clause is, that means like you can't play the market a few weeks before or a few weeks after. I feel like radius clauses kind of get a bad rap, and I get it. There are some festivals that are like you can't play LA for a year or whatever, and artists get frustrated by that. But not playing the market a few weeks before or a few weeks after is actually to your advantage, because like what was the answer to so many questions? Like sell tickets, right? So you want to be selling as many tickets as possible, not selling 20 here, 30 there, 10 that you're like, no, I can do 100 all at Mercury Lounge, so you can keep growing and building your live presence. But once you've built that up, you can start expanding by touring regionally. And we're here in New York City, where you're in a great location, because we've got Philadelphia super close, we've got Boston close, you've got the whole Eastern Seaboard. And in fact, I always botch this stat from Martin Adkins' wonderful book, Tour Smart, but you'll get the idea. Like 80% of the top touring market, the biggest touring markets, are east of the Mississippi. So you might think like, oh, I want to play LA or you want to play San Francisco. I mean, Peter talked about how many unlimited miles they racked up on that van, right? And like as a tour manager, I've, you know, been on buses or driven across the country many times. The United States is big. And so it's very expensive to get across the country. So maybe focus on, you know, like East Coast or east of the Mississippi, because you're going to hit more places instead of just like the vast middle of the country that never seems to end when you're driving across it. But when you have a solid draw, use metrics when you are reaching out to other artists in nearby cities to set up gig swaps. So instead of just like taking a look at an old spreadsheet of like, oh, okay, here's some artists in Boston or here's some artists in Philadelphia, go to Chartmetric and you can type in any city and and it'll spit out the top trending artists on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram in each city or any Google Maps location, right? So, you know, we mentioned I'm originally from Milwaukee. I remember downloading the top trending artists from Milwaukee for our I Voted festival because we book per the data instead of just like booking what we think is like what we think people will like. And, you know, the press darlings that I'd heard of that are kind of the Milwaukee artists to watch at South by Southwest were way at the bottom of the list. They didn't really have a lot of fans. But then it was like a Latin hip hop group called Quinto Soul completely crushing it with tons of fans way at the top. You know what I mean? So reach out. You want to open for Quinto Soul. You don't want to open for the guy who can take a creative press shot with the piano in the river, right? Because Quinto Soul actually has fans. So what I'm trying to say is look at the data on Chartmetric, reach out to artists in those cities and say, hey, I draw 100 tickets in New York City. Would you like to come open for me? I mean, who wouldn't? You know, it's New York City. And could I come open for you in Boston or Philadelphia, et cetera? So really use metrics and also use metrics to guide the way with your national bookings too. You know, that's something that I wanted to mention, you know, to Peter is like, I wonder how often talent buyers are hearing, you know, Brooklyn is my #1 market or Omaha is my #1 market, like per metrics, right? Instead of just like, I'm awesome, here's my links, check me out, you know what I mean? Like lead with the power of data and also use that data for your own bookings, right? So I feel like when I was coming up in the industry, like booking agents would just book like the 10 same cities, the 10 same clubs or whatever. But like go into those metrics. Like, are you really going off in Vegas? Are you going off in Charlotte? You know what I mean? And then again, that's really powerful, appealing info in my opinion. When you're reaching out to venues and talent buyers, like, hey, Charlotte is actually our #1 city over New York, London, you know, LA, Nashville, et cetera. And same with international. You know, I've definitely worked with artists that, you know, traditionally do well in those traditional markets, New York, Nashville, London, but then they're, you know, I see that their numbers are massive in Southeast Asia or in South America. And then I reach out to the agents and then they come back with like really lucrative tours. You know, there's people everywhere and everyone loves music. Also, don't discount, you know, setting up house shows. You know, Peter mentioned private gigs, playing colleges. This is also really nice if when you do score one of those opening slots, even though it's like you've been working to land those opening slots, you're gonna get paid either usually $100, $250, or $500, and that means you're likely losing money. So I mentioned when I was tour managing the Dresden Dolls and we were opening for Nine Inch Nails, we were making $500 a night. We had to rent a tour bus that we couldn't afford to keep up with their routing. And this was a long time ago, and that tour bus cost $1,000 a day. Now it's going to be, you know, closer to $1,500 a day. But we would fill it in with like, okay, 10 grand, you know, show at American University or a private show or something. So I've had up and coming artists do that too, like play a graduation, play a birthday party or whatever, and then that helps to offset you know, their costs when they're on a larger support tour, even though that's very exciting. You know, keep live streaming and webcasting in mind too. I mean, I know that that space exploded during the pandemic, and it's certainly shifting, but it's great to take care of fans. Look, it's hard to get people, you know, out the door, parking, get a babysitter, all that. So, you know, pop on Instagram Live once in a while, pop on Twitch, and then maybe build into a donation or ticketed, you know, webcast as well. You know, I know a lot of the jammier artists use Nugs. There's platforms like, we really like Veeps a lot. That's who we're working with right now at I Voted. There's also Volume, which season 2 of this podcast was on. So there's still some really great players in the space. Yeah, and then just a couple more things. Maximizing tour profits. So as you start to get bigger, maybe keep in mind, do you need that extra bell and whistle or not? Like, I need that clock there. I really like having this end table here. But do you need a tech for every musician? Do you need a tech for every instrument, right? Because I remember I was in Australia on tour once, and Ben Folds came to the show, and I have no idea why this came up. But he talked about how he was given 2 tour budgets, one with a bus, and I just shared how expensive tour buses are, and one with a van. And with a van, he would come back with an extra 6 figures. He's like, well, I'm going to roll up to Jimmy Fallon in a van, you know? Like, if it's good enough for Ben Folds, it's good enough for the rest of us. So maybe, you know, as you start to have crew members, maybe they're down to share hotel rooms, but like get paid a little bit more. I feel like the Dresden Dolls, the band I really came up with, did a good job of that. When they were first starting out, they had a sound person, and then they added me as a young tour manager. We added a merch person as they got bigger. We did have a monitor tech who kind of doubled as a backline gear tech, and we had a lighting person. But I don't think they ever added any crew members beyond that. We didn't have a keyboard tech and a drum tech and, you know, all these other bells and whistles, because then they come home with more money, and you could also pay your team and your crew a little bit more. Finally, well, 2 last things actually. Recording your shows. I feel like that is a revenue stream that folks don't take advantage of nearly enough. In the pre-digital era, you would not have the rights to do that because you needed to be signed to record and distribute, and labels would legally block you from recording your shows. And then also we didn't really have the technology, you know, it would take a, you know, more complicated setup in the pre-digital era. So I understand why folks are hesitant to record their shows. Like, we're all our worst critics, and it's like, oh my gosh, my voice wasn't perfect, or I messed up. But like, think about the fan experience. You know, like, you can just put the recordings up on your website for donation or for subscription. It doesn't, or as part of your Patreon as something exclusive. It doesn't have to be anything too wild. But again, think about the fans. It's like, oh my gosh, I yelled Brooklyn then, or oh my gosh, they said this, or whatever. It's that custom, you know, once in a lifetime, yeah, exactly, unique experience. And, you know, again, I'm just gonna keep saying this, make sure you're collecting data at the merch table, right? And then don't forget to import that data. But Zoe Keating talks about in the book, she just puts up a poster board of her text list number, and then people can just join. And then she doesn't have to import that into the list. So, yeah, does anyone have any questions on booking or promoting a show? I also did a deep dive on that, a really deep dive on that in this episode in season 2, and that was with Matt Berenger from the Pap Cedar Group, which is our big concert promoter in Milwaukee, as well as a VP at Summerfest, which is one of the largest festivals in America. So if you have questions, let me know. If not, you know, that's very well covered. It looks like we don't have questions, so we'll just wrap up. Oh, yeah, get up there.
Yeah. So my question is...
And who are you again?
Hey, I'm
I know
Trevor.
You're an A+
Yeah, I've
listener.
been here. Trevor, aspiring musical artist. My question is, when you're touring in like the same city, is it important to like market your show as like different? Because you have one show, it seems like, you know, you say you could draw a lot of people, but then would the people want to come to the same show if it's the same show? So is that important, being like, this show's different because it's this? You know?
What kind of music do you make again?
Like rock or pop.
I would say yes. And I think, like, I don't even listen to jammy music, but I feel like there's so much to learn from that scene. Like, I'm going to have a special guest. I'm going to do some sort of cover. I'm going to be debuting some sort of thing. So I would say, like, you know your audience and you guys know your genres. So maybe, like, you know, you might not want to veer, like, too far out. But I think mixing it up, or I'm doing an album in full, or I'm doing some sort of special thing. Yeah, I think that can definitely be enticing. Yeah. Great question. So I just want to do my thank yous that I usually do at the beginning of this episode, but I wanted to be mindful of Peter's time. So huge thanks to the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment for making this season happen. This live podcast taping is a part of New York Music Month, the official celebration of New York City's vibrant and dynamic music ecosystem. June also means it's Pride Month. I want to deeply thank our partners over at the Ally Coalition for supporting us and the crucial work they're doing. Founded in 2013 by Jack and Rachel Antonoff, the Ally Coalition provides critical support for organizations dedicated to bettering the lives of LGBTQ youth and raises awareness about the systematic inequalities facing the LGBTQ population. The Ally Coalition is committed to bettering the lives of LGBTQ youth through tours, social media campaigns, and collaborative partnerships. To learn more on how you can get involved, visit theallycoalition.org. Okay, so we're gonna take a set break for a week because my brother's getting married in San Francisco. So we'll be back here on Tuesday, so a week from today, at 4 p.m. Eastern in real life here at Tower Labs in Brooklyn, or via live stream on YouTube as we discuss merch reconnaissance with Fourth Wall COO and co-founder Eli J. Valentine. In the meantime, thanks so much to the icon that is Peter Shapiro, podcast manager Mike Zimmerlich, engineer Nathan Kane, Matthew Wong for composing the show's music, Danny, David, and Jake at Tower Records, the Ally Coalition, Liquid Death, Hal Leonard, and of course, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment's New York Music Month for making this all happen. We will see you in a week.